right? So today we're reacting to the news that YNW Bortlen has received an offer to settle his case. Now, we're going to get into self-snitching. We've got AK-47s, Mac 11, Glocks, and 9s. If I'm representing Mr. Melly, I would tell him, number one, keep your mouth shut. This Melly's goose is kind of cooked.
What's going on, everyone? Reactor Factor back. Make this video. They're saying that YNW Bortlen is not a snitch, and we're gonna have to wait to see. I'm gonna bring my lawyer in a minute, explain to y'all why he thinks he is a snitch, and to my opinion, I think he's a snitch as well. Okay, if he would have stood 100% solid, he would have took the not guilty plea. Him taking the no contest, signing the proffer. He's going to show up to the trial. They're going to ask him questions. He's going to testify when he should have took it to the door. You know the rap rules. No testifying. It's just going to put YNW Melly in a harder position than he already is in. I get it. YNW Bortlen had all these life sentences, took that route out. And yes, he did. Like 1090 Jake will say, he did do 7 years without doing this. But after those 7 years, I feel like he crumbled. So y'all let me know what y'all think in the end, in the comments. Let's get into it.
You know what time it is. And they are telling me that YNW Bortlen is not going to be a flipper, and he is not going to be the cheese eater I previously said that he could become. And he is going to give a statement. I don't know what that statement's going to be, but his attorney is an excellent attorney. He's one of my good friends and you know, really helped me out as a young attorney. Fred Haddad, a great guy. And he represented very, very few, if any, flippers in the past. That's why I was kind of surprised at first. But it turns out, the rumor on the street, YNW Bortlen is not going to be a flipper, but he will give a proffer.
So at this time, I, 1090 Jake, proudly stand corrected. And you know what? When Bortlen hits the DOC, I'll reach out to him personally with a, my bad, bro, but cut me a little bit of slack because everybody thought you told. You know what I'm saying? I had a co-defendant that took a proffer and he told everything on me. So when I heard proffer, I'm like, no, Melly's fried. But reaching out and speaking to his lawyer, Joe, who was present in the courtroom with him that day, you know, I'm not a lawyer at the end of the day. None of these guys on YouTube, from Act to Say Cheese to fucking Vlad to Adam22, none of us are lawyers. We've just dealt with so many similar situations that, yeah, we can make a judgment based on what we've already experienced before. We've never heard of a proffer going good. You know what I mean? Like, we've never heard of sitting down with the prosecutors and they're not snitching. But I stand corrected. And I'm proud to, because you know what? Bortlen has held on for 6, damn near 7 years without folding on his man's Melly. And the fact that he's taken this plea and apparently nothing is gonna affect Melly, that's some soldier shit, because he could have folded a long time ago. So like I said, we'll just have to wait and see when the proffer actually happens. I'm sure everyone's gonna request it. We're gonna see what's said, and then next up is going to be Melly's trial. But hey, let me know y'all's thoughts and comments in the comment section. It's 1090 Jake. I'm rocking with y'all, and y'all rocking with me. Until next time.
Okay, so they probably waited to give him this great offering. You know, the DA probably strategized it to give him this great offering at the very end. So he would have all that time in. You know, they were probably giving them medium. That's what they do when you go to court. They give you medium offers. They give you they give you a terrible offer. You know, plead guilty to this, we'll give you 10 years. You reject it. You go back to the courts later. They say, plead guilty. You know, you get done a little bit more time. We see you're not going to max out. Plead to the max. Plead guilty, we'll give you 5 years. If you keep going, they'll eventually offer you such a great deal because they see you're not going to take it. And at the very end of the day, this is why you don't do a crime with a co-defendant. You do it by yourself, because that co-defendant 95% of the time is going to roll on you. And the district attorney, they want the big fry. They want the guy with the biggest rap sheet, the longest rap sheet, the guy with all the money, the famous guy. They're always going to go after that guy. So if you're the little guy and you're with the big guy that got a rap sheet, happened to my friend, unfortunately, he had years and years of prison. He had a co-defendant in the case. They got the smaller fry to roll on the bigger fry because they want that guy.
Whatever they want, right? And nothing he says can be held against him in that proffer. Nothing. You know, and this is what they call a snitch session. He's taking a deal where he's getting, 10 years in, 6 years on probation. He's already got 7 in. He might do a couple more years, depending upon how Florida works their system. If he doesn't get credit for a good time, then he's probably got at least 3 years, 4 years left to do. But that's going to be a pittance without parole. He was looking at the death penalty, and they have taken that off the table, if I'm not mistaken. So here's what happened in this case. So Melly and Bortlen were in the front seat. 2 of his buddies were in the back seat. They're driving around, and Melly fucking shoots these 2 people in the back seat. Actually, I think Melly was in the rear driver's side seat, and he's shooting this way, right? And he shoots these 2 people, and I think Bortlen might have been driving. They drive these 2 to an ER, and then they get popped for murder. They said it was a drive-by, and they stopped the car, got out of the car, and shot at the car to make it look like a drive-by. But the problem is, when you look at the entrance wounds and the exit wounds of the 2 individuals that were shot, they came from this way. And you look at the fake shots, they came from this way. So, and nothing matched up. Oh, shit. I didn't think about that when I planned this. And it was over $200,000. It was over $200,000. Can I just tell you something? You can always go make more money. If a woman screws you out of your nest egg, go make another nest egg. You made one, you can make another one. It's never worth it. It's never worth it to take somebody's life over fucking money. Now, if you catch another guy in bed with your wife, no, I'm joking. Don't do that. So this was from a 2018 murder. 2018. They're just not going to. And Melly probably isn't going to take any kind of deal, because any kind of deal that they would give him would be life without parole, and he's not going to do that. Legal team now, and he will not have a trial until January of 2027, because there's issues that are up at the Court of Appeals on what kind of evidence that they can use. He's looking at double life. A 2018 murder. 2018 that these boys were killed. And so it's now it's 7 years later. It's 2025. I mean, are you kidding me? That's how long it's taken him to get to trial in Florida. So according to complex.com, Bortlen was facing a life-altering decision in his long-running criminal case tied to the 2018 killings of fellow YNW crew members, Anthony YNW Sack Chaser and Williams, and Christopher YNW Juvie Thomas Jr. So the prosecutors offered Bortlen a deal that would wipe away 2 first-degree murder charges. 2 first-degree murder charges. If he agreed to plead no contest to 6 other serious counts, including accessory after the fact, conspiracy, witness tampering, and gang-related activity. So if you help somebody after a case, that's a crime. Let's say I shoot somebody and you help hide me. You're not responsible for the underlying crime.
This is a perfect example of how you can be guilty by association. Meaning, just because you didn't commit the crime, just because you were there, you could, at the very least, be charged. And if not, then found guilty.
It's aiding an offender after the fact. And in some jurisdictions, the guidelines are half of the existing crime. So if you're looking at first-degree murder, it'd probably be like 15 years at least. If Bortlen accepts the deal, he'd be looking to a little over 16 years with credit for time served. So he'd be out in probably 5 years, if that. The sentences for the charges would run concurrently, significantly reducing the decades of prison of the potential prison time he's facing. So here's a little clip of him in court.
Well, at this time, Your Honor, the state would move what has been already provided to Your Honor.
He's already got it. It's labeled up there.
All right, let me go back on the record. This is State versus Cortland Henry.
right? And nothing he says can be held against him in that proffer. Nothing. You know, and this is what they call a snitch session. He's taking a deal where he's getting, 10 years in, 6 years on probation. He's already got 7 in. He might do a couple more years, depending upon how Florida works their system. If he doesn't get credit for good time, then he's probably got at least 3 years, 3 or 4 years left to do. But that's going to be a pittance compared to what he could be looking at if he was, to go to trial and lose on 2 first-degree murder charges. Bortlen and Melly were arrested in February 2019. They were charged with first-degree murder, accused of killing their crew members and then staging the scene to make it look like a drive-by shooting. Remember when requested his deposition in the civil case. Phillips spoke to Complex. Complex is the news outlet. I found out this morning that from my clients, he said that adding to the Thomas family liked the deal. At the end of the day, Mr. Henry knows what happened. He was in the car, but he wasn't the shooter. If you're with somebody committing a crime and you don't do the ultimate act, do fucking bad. Aiding, advising, counseling, conspiring, or otherwise procuring, you're just as guilty as if you pull the trigger yourself. At the end of the day, Mr. Henry knows what happened. He was in the car, but he wasn't the shooter. And so finally, after all these years, for him to plead no contest, even though he was adjudicated guilty and accepted responsibility for this, in part, was favorable. It gives the family some closure because, the value of not having to go through a trial for a victim is pretty good. He shouldn't be able to take the Fifth Amendment in the civil case, so I've already requested his deposition. We'll have to see that. Yeah, so theoretically, Phillips said, Bortlen could now be called as a witness in Melly's upcoming trial. He could testify for Melly or against Melly. But my guess is if he's agreeing to do a proffer, he's going to snitch. I expect that to be the case, Phillips said. If they subpoena him, he can no longer take the Fifth Amendment on these issues. A judge can't compel him to testify now because double jeopardy's attached. Just ask, did Mr. Demons, that's Melly, ever leave that car? Was he sitting behind you at the time of the shootings? A jury's going to watch him squirm, and I think he's going to say, yes, Mr. Demons was there, or Demons, whatever. And that's the missing piece. So right now they have all this circumstantial evidence, and that's one of the reasons that he got a hung jury. With this, Melly's goose is kind of cooked. And how does that affect somebody's testimony when they're accepting something of value? Well, it does call into question their motives. How do you turn down, basically, I'll let you walk out of this jail in a couple of years if you testify. Otherwise, you're going to go for life if you're convicted. So this is bad news for Melly. Bad news for Melly. So we'll follow this, but it's going to be a while before Melly gets up there. So you should go back and watch my very first video, Murder on My Mind, and then watch the second one, which we'll put that in here, a little bit of that, where we kind of dissect the forensics and the trajectory of the bullets. That's really the linchpin in this because, they said to the hospital staff and to law enforcement, oh, this is a drive-by shooting, and no, it doesn't make sense. Plus, I think they also found a .40 caliber casing in the car itself. So how would a fucking casing get in the car if the shots came from outside the car?
All right, it's looking like YNW Melly is pretty cooked. They might bury him under the prison. Although his only chance now is that he has the best lawyer in the game, Drew Finling. Drew Finling freed YNF Lucci. Yes, he's not as nice on the eyes as his past attorney, Liberty Raven. Man, what a behind on her. I'm going to miss seeing that in the videos, but, at the end of the day, YNW Melly didn't do nothing to me or my family. I love his music, inmate stories, Blue Balenciagas. So I say, if you do the crime, you do the time, and you should always, if you end up in any position, solo dolo. But I would like to hear some more YNW music in the future. Y'all let me know what y'all think. Till next time, Reactor out.